and welcome back to Trains Up North. In this video we're going to continue our look at signals and concentrate on junctions, depots and subsidiary signals. Now it might sound obvious, but at some point we're going to need to move trains onto other lines. This could be at stations where we might have multiple platforms, it might be in depots or yards, or it could just be to allow other faster trains to pass. To move trains from one track to another, we use points, sometimes referred to as turnouts or switches. Trains can't change tracks via points at high speed, so we need to warn drivers so they can slow down. We could just impose speed limits for the points, but this would slow down all the trains, not just the ones that need to be slowed down so they can switch onto another line. So what we do instead is we use signals to ensure that only those that need to reduce the speed are actually slowed down. The speed at which trains can go across the points will vary depending on things such as the geometry of the track, so I'm not going to go into that today. If you want me to go into that, I will on another video. Just put a comment below. So as I've said in previous videos, signalling has changed over time. So in this video I'm going to concentrate and cover on what we're likely to see today or the recent past. Bearing in mind that we still have some semaphore signals up and down the rail network in the UK, so it will cover quite a lot. So when we look at the traditional semaphore signals, there are two ways which we can signal junctions. So we can offset the signals or we can stack the signals. So let's start by looking at offsetting signals. So here the signals are on a gantry over the line. The one on the left is for the main line and the one on the right is for the diverging branch line. As the signal for the branch line is shorter, we know that the line speed will be at least 10 miles an hour lower than the main line. The signal could be offset to the left if the diverging route's to the left, and if we have more than one diverging route on the right, what we'd have is multiple signals offset on the right. So where we don't have space to put signals side by side, we might stack them one on top of the other. If we do that, these read top to bottom, left to right. So the very top signal refers to the far left track, and then it moves across, so the next one below would be the one slightly to the right of that, then again all the way across, with the lowest signal being the track furthest on the right. We can also provide route indicators. So this can be letters or numbers that indicate what route has been set for the train. So here you can see that the main signal has been pulled off and there's a number 4. This indicates that the train is going to be signalled into platform 4. If the train was going into platform 2, there'd be a number 2. If it was going into platform 3, we'd have a number 3. And on this line the train can't be signalled into platform 1 because platform 1 is a bay platform from the other direction. The indicator shown, it's known as a theatre indicator, and it can display multiple letters and numbers. You can also get route indicators that are known as stencil indicators. These are often much smaller and they can only display one route. So what you might find is several grouped together, either side by side or on top of each other. So the stencil indicators, they're an older design, and what you had is a light source behind them, and there was a cutout for the letter or number that you wanted to display, and when the light wasn't illuminated it looked black, and then when the light source was illuminated you could see the letter or number, thus the name stencil. So as we know, the semaphore signals have been upgraded to colour lights. So let's look at colour light signals at junctions. So with colour lights we can also fit a route indicator to the signal, so the driver will know how the points are set and what route they're going on. The theatre route indicators have the advantage that you can display an almost unlimited number of routes to drivers. If you think about how many different combinations you can have just using 2 different characters, it's way more than any junction that you're ever going to get on a railway, even really complicated junctions. So on the approach to a station, a number is often used. That will normally correspond with the platform number. So if you're going to go into platform 3, you'll get a number 3 lit up. If you're going into 2, you get a 2 lit up, and so on and so forth. It is quite common for the following letters to be used. So you might have a U, uniform, for the up line, a D, delta, for the down line. It might also be for depot. You might get an F, foxtrot, for the fast line, a S, so Sierra, for the slow line, a T, which is tango, for the through line, B, bravo, for which can be used for a branch line, or it could be used for a bay line. Other letters can be used indicating the line name or the place where the line is heading, such as the letter L, Lima. So if you're modelling a specific location, you might want to just do your research. If you're modelling a fictional location, just make sure it makes sense. You wouldn't have a number 3 signalling a train into platform 5. Sometimes, like I said, you will combine 2 letters together, so you might have UF, uniform foxtrot, for the up fast line, or you might have uniform Sierra for the up slow line. These are just examples, and if you go and look at real stations, especially the bigger stations, you'll see different combinations of letters and things if you look at the signalling. So the downside of the route indicators is we can only use them on lines that have got maximum speed of up to 40 mile an hour. So above 40 mile an hour we can't use the route indicators. So if we want to run trains at high speeds, they're no good. And what we don't want to do is get a train going at a nice speed and then have to slow it down for every junction and then speed it up. It's not energy efficient, it's not good for timetabling, it's not good for passengers, so we don't do it. So what we can do instead is we can fit junction indicators to signals. So junction indicators, these comprise of 5 white lights that show if a route is set to left or right. They're commonly known as feathers, and if you've got a signal with these fitted and the route's set for straight on, then you won't have any of these white lights lit up. So you can have a maximum of 6 feathers on a signal, which would give you 7 routes including the straight ahead. This is adequate for most railway junctions in the UK. So when the points are set for a diverging route and the line is clear, these would light up. So if the route's set but the signal's at danger, you're not going to get them lighting up. What happens in reality is we set the route, so the points move, the signalling system proves itself, so if the line's clear it'll prove itself, and what happens is you'll see the junction indicator lights up a second or 2 whilst the signal's still at danger before it clears, so green, yellow or double yellow, depending on what the next signal is displaying and how many aspects the signal can display. Sometimes, to ensure that the train is going slowly enough, so if we've got a diverging route and we want to slow the train right down and ensure that it's slowed, so that the train can safely negotiate the points, we'll use a procedure called approach control. So approach control, it's a dead simple system. So as the train approaches, we're going to hold the signal at danger. It can be automated, this system. It doesn't need a signaller to do it. And once the train is going slow enough, or at a certain point on the track, the signal would clear. We can hold the signal at danger. Sometimes we'll hold it on a signal yellow, just so the train's going nice and slow, and as it approaches, the signal clears, and then the train can go through the junction. So as I've said, the speed that the train would need to be going for it to clear would depend on the individual location, so track geometry and things like that. If we use approach control and we hold it at a caution, at a single yellow, then the driver must expect and prepare for the next signal being at danger. It has been known for drivers, when they've been approaching caution signals, not to slow down as much as they should, because guess what? The signal always changes as they get to it. And the one day it doesn't. And then they end up doing things like having to put emergency brake applications on, or they could have a SPAD if the next signal's still at danger. So yeah, we don't chase signals, and that's the reason. So on high-speed trains, where we don't want to be slowing trains down too much, we can use flashing yellows. So as the train approaches, on a 4-aspect signalling system, we'll have a double flashing yellow. This means that the next signal is going to be set to a single flashing yellow. So after the single flashing yellow, we'll get a steady yellow with a diverging route. We can also provide drivers with advanced route indicators. So these look very similar to the route indicators that I mentioned previously, that display numbers and letters. However, they display an arrow, and the arrow will correspond to that of the junction indicator ahead. So the difference is, if the route is set for going straight ahead, we'll have an arrow that points straight up. And if no arrow is displayed, then the next signal is going to be at danger. So we'd have an arrow that points in the direction of the junction indicators, and if it's pointing straight on, it's set for going straight ahead, and we've got at least a caution. And if there's nothing in the box that would normally display an arrow, it means the signal's at danger. On some lines where we need to give the driver a little bit of more notice because there isn't the sighting for the next signal, so it could be due to curves or buildings, things like that, we use what's called a banner repeater. So banner repeaters, they go back all the way to the 1920s, and banner repeaters were traditionally a white circle with a black arm. The arm moved by 45 degrees to mimic the signal up ahead, and if the signal up ahead was only a distant signal, so you didn't have a stop signal there, the arm had a little V cut out, similar to that of a distant arm, so it sort of resembled a distant arm. And like I said, if this was, the next signal was going to be a stop signal, it was just a flat end. So if you had a stop and a distant signal together, the banner repeater could only tell you that you had a proceed aspect or a stop on the next signal. It couldn't tell you that the next signal was a caution. As technology moved on, the banner repeaters were changed from mechanical ones that had an arm that actually physically moved to fibre optic. And what they did is they displayed a series of white lights instead of the white circle. The bit in the middle wouldn't be lit, so you'd still have like a black band, and that had changed by 45 degrees when the signal was off. And now these are being changed for LEDs. So with the use of LEDs, some of the new banner repeaters will light up green if the next signal is green. So what they'll do is they'll show the 45 degree band, but instead of having a white background, it'll be a green background. If the next signal was a caution, they'd revert back to a white background. The ID plates on the banner repeaters will have the signal ID number that they're repeating, along with the letters BR, Bravo Romeo, or Romeo, to show that it's a repeater or a banner repeater. The banner repeaters that can also show the green will have a white circle with a black vertical line on the ID plate as well, just so that the drivers know that this one can display green LEDs, and therefore if it's showing white, the next signal is going to be at a caution or a primary caution. So normally with train signalling, we only want one train on any one piece of track at any one time. It sounds obvious, but sometimes, such as in stations, we might want to allow two trains into the same platform. So if you think to some of the larger stations, you get the platforms that split. So you'll get platform 2A and 2B. So you can signal a train into platform 2A, and then you might want to signal a train into platform 2B. Or you might have two trains that you want to join up and make into a longer train. So how do we do this? So what we do is we have signals that are known as subsidiary signals. Again, these go back to the days of semaphore signals. And for semaphore signals, a subsidiary signal is similar to the regular stop arms, only they are smaller. So they're painted red with a white horizontal bar on the front. They are mounted below the main semaphore arm, and when they're in the vertical position, i.e. the on position, the driver must obey the main signal. So if the main signal's off, then the driver can proceed as normal. If the main signal's on and the subsidiary arm is also on, the driver's got to stop. When the main signal's at danger, the subsidiary arms may be moved by 45 degrees, giving an off indication. If your subsidiary arm is showing off, then a train may pass the main aspect at danger, but it's going to proceed at caution, and it's going to proceed towards either a train, a buffer stop, or the next signal. But the driver's going to be prepared to stop short of any obstruction. Sometimes a letter C is displayed when the signal is off. This is referred to as calling on signal, and you may hear some people referring to it as calling on arm. So this allows the train to proceed as we previously mentioned. You might also see a letter S. This is referred to as a shunt ahead signal. So a shunt ahead signal means that a driver may only pass that signal when shunting and must be prepared to stop short of any obstruction. So our main semaphore arm is on. and the subsidiary arm is off and it's displaying an S. So that's semaphore signals, and of course we have the same signal for colour lights, only it looks a little bit different. So for colour lights you have two white lights at 45 degrees to each other, and they're mounted just below or adjacent to the main aspect. When they're not illuminated, the driver is going to obey the main aspect. So when the main aspect is displaying a red and the white lights are illuminated, the driver may proceed towards a train, buffer stops or the next signal. This is going to be done at caution, and we're going to be prepared to stop short of any obstruction. So what we do is we're approaching the stop signal. So the signal, it's at danger, it's at red, and bring our train to a stop. And then the two little white lights illuminate, so we can then proceed at caution. And then what we're going to do is stop short of any obstruction. So in depots, you might find that there's a complete lack of signalling, apart from those that protect the main line. What you might find is, as you get into the depot, there might be a stop board with instructions. You can find these on the exit depots as well. So it might say something like stop and contact signaller, or something similar to that. So why don't we have signals in depots? Well, signalling systems are expensive to install and maintain, and in depots and yards, trains are going to be travelling slowly, often under the instruction of a shunter or a designated person who will give the driver instructions via hand signals or radio. The drivers are going to be running at caution, and it's going to be what we call proceed on sight. So if the driver can see there's an obstruction, they need to make sure they can stop short of it. So they're only going to travel as far as they can see to be clear. Again, in depots it's quite common for the points to be controlled locally. So they're not controlled by a signal box, but they can be controlled by either the local crew or the shunter, and it'll be a simple hand point, or it might be a fairly simple ground frame. The exceptions to this is going to be the points that go out onto the main line, which are always going to be controlled by a signaller. That said, depots and yards can have ground discs or position lights. It all depends on the size and number of trains running. So let's take a small yard where we might only have one train running. This is a little different to a busy train maintenance depot, so a TMD, where we're going to have a number of trains that might be moving different directions at the same time. So basically what we're going to do is going to operate depots and yards based on risk. So the higher the risk, the greater the level of control. So if it's high risk, we might have signalling. It won't be the same as what we have on the main lines. It'll be the simple ground discs and position lights. We might have derailers, so we avoid collisions with people or other locos, other stock. So let's move on now to the type of shunting signals that we might get in depots and yards and things like that. So we have mini semaphore signals. These are very similar to the standard semaphore signals, only again they are smaller. So the stop signal is red with a white band. So it's on, telling us to stop when it's in the horizontal position, and it's off when it's raised or lowered by 45 degrees. a little red light is displayed when the signal's on, and a little green light is displayed when the signal is off. When it's on, we must stop, and when it's off, we can pass it at caution. So it does differ a little bit from the normal main semaphore arm, because when this one's off, we're passing it at caution. So what we're going to do is we're going to be prepared to stop if there's any obstruction. So that could be wagons or another loco or something like that. Then we have ground stop discs. These are round discs that are white. You do get variations depending whereabouts in the country you are, but they pretty much all look very similar and they all mean the same. So they're white and they have a red bar painted across them. And just like the semaphore signal, when the line's horizontal, it's said to be on, so at danger, so we stop. And when it's at 45 degrees, so either raised or lowered through 45 degrees, the signal's off. And again, when it's off, we're going to be going past it at caution. So being prepared to stop short of any obstruction. It's going to have a little red light displayed when it's on, and a little green light displayed when it's off. These are really quite small, but at night you can see them. A yellow arm with a black band is a caution signal, and just note that this does differ from the full size caution signals, that it doesn't have the fishtail cut out, so it doesn't have the V cut out at the end. It has a yellow light when it's on and a green light when it's off. So when it's on, you can pass this signal, but only to go towards the head shunt or sidings. So you can't go towards the main line when it's on. So if you're going towards main line, then this signal needs to be off. So just like the stop ground discs, we also have this as a ground disc as well. So it's either going to be a white circle or a black circle, and instead of the red band, we're going to have a yellow band across it. These also have yellow and green lights, so we can see them at night, and they have the same meaning as the yellow semaphore signal. So when it's on, we can go past it, but only into the head shunt or sidings, so we can't go towards the main line. And just as we can stack semaphore arms at junctions, we can stack ground discs, and it is very common to stack ground discs as space in depots and yards is often limited. You will find ground discs on the main line for shunting purposes, and again the space for these is limited, so we'll stack them. And when we stack them, just like the other signals, read them top to bottom, left to right. Just like we have semaphore signals and colour light signals for our main aspects, so we also have colour light versions of the shunting signals. So these are known as position lights. So originally we had two lights that were side by side. The one on the left was either a red or yellow, depending on whether it was a stop or a caution signal, and the light on the right was a white light. When the signal was on, the coloured light and the white light were lit, and when the signal was off, the coloured light was not lit, and a second white light above this was lit, giving two white lights at 45 degrees. So just like the signal that we have to allow trains into occupied platforms and things where we're using colour lights, these are being replaced by LEDs, and the LED signals now display two reds or two yellows side by side when they're on, and 2 white lights at 45 degrees when they're off. The meaning of these lights is the same as the mini semaphore arms or the ground discs that we use for shunting. So when they're on, if it's a red and a white or 2 reds, it means stop. And when it's displaying 2 whites, it means we can go at caution. And likewise, the yellow and the white, or the 2 yellows, means that you can pass it at caution, but only if you're going into the head shunt or into sidings. And if that one's displaying 2 whites, you can proceed towards the main line. We do have supplementary arrows that can be used to show which lines these signals apply to. So what you'll sometimes see is ground discs or position lights with a little arrow underneath pointing to a line, so you know which line they apply to. What you do get on at certain places is limit of shunt signals. So these can be a board with the words shunt limit or limit of shunt written on. You're not allowed to go past these under any circumstance. What you might find is something that looks like a position light. However, it only has 2 red lights side by side, so it doesn't have any white lights in it. So it is in effect always on. And again, this just means stop. You can't go past this under any circumstances. So that's about it for today. So if you like what you've seen, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. As ever, I love to read your comments, so keep putting them in the box below. Comments and feedback really does help me improve the channel. In the next episode on signalling, I'm going to be looking at the principles of absolute block and how we signal a train. So if you do subscribe, you're never going to miss any of my videos, which has got to be a bonus, hasn't it? Let's face it, they are brilliant videos. Honest. I'd like to say thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye.